Tuesday, January 23rd, City Council meeting. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Costa Junior,
Here.
Councilmember Robles,
Present.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yeah.
Councilmember Lozaldi, absent, Mayor Julian.
Here, we have a quorum. Will you please stand with me for the pledge of allegiance? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item 3, is a moment of thanks, appreciation, or condolences. And I'm sorry, you know, Darcy Oliveira passed several days ago, and she was basically a cheerleader, really, the cheerleader. So condolences to the family and friends in her passing. Anybody else wish to say anything?
I would like to take this chance to, myself, Todd, Amelia, Chief Cash, we had a firefighter who was recognized by the Alps as our firefighter of the year. Was not there present for the ceremony, but I'd like to take a moment to say, thank you to David Bonifacio for being accepted as the Alps firefighter of the year for our city.
Good, thank you. All right, the next item is agenda review, and at this time, the city council will review the order of business. Is there a council person that wishes to change the order of business? No. Nope. Moving by long item 5 is ceremonial calendar. Swearing in of Luis Castellanos, police officer, and Leah Wilcom, police officer. Chief Cash and the father or. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
The families can come up if they want, they wish to come up, so, for pictures and things, so.
Is there another?
Yes.
When we do it together, we want to do it together.
Where do you want to see it? Right.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, how about you? We can have all of us right here. Are you watching that? Okay. All right.
I'm ready.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. All right, repeat after me. I
Luis Castellanos,
Leah, welcome. Do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I will take this obligation freely
That I will take this obligation freely
without mental reservation
without reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or participation.
that I will well and faithfully
That I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter. Subscribed and sworn to before me this date, January 2024. Congratulations.
At this moment, before we do the actual pinning, I'd like to have Father Luis say a few words.
Father, praise you for this event and your purpose for it. We know that when we gather together, you always have a divine agenda. We love you for that, Father, that even when we have done what you have asked, the results are so much greater than we ever could have imagined. Even in failed attempts, you blow us away with your faithfulness to provide what we need. Our prayer today is that your will be done through this event. Take what we have prepared and multiply our efforts as only you can. Steer our intentions to align with your righteousness and your will. Remind us of your faithful provision when our efforts fail us or fall short. May all glory go up to you when we reach the finish line and climb over benchmarks. Blanket us with your peace today. Father, keep us physically safe and guard our hearts and minds from pride and selfishness. Keep love in the forefront of our minds today, and the guiding light for all we set out to accomplish and celebrate. In Jesus Christ we pray.
Amen.
Amen. I think that deserves a.
This time, Luis, and who would you like to pin you?
Father Luis. Thank you.
Officer, welcome. Who would you like to pin you?
My mother, Wendy, welcome.
Just real quick, a few words just before I have them say anything, if that's okay. I want to thank, our police staff, and our background investigator. I know he's back there, and so is the officers and lieutenant and, the office staff. As everyone know, I've been out of the office. I still have not officially come back to work. And so our background, everyone was putting this stuff together, and I have to read everything. And they're either gonna take it to my house or they call me so I can come in and I can read and approve these things. The work that went in with our in-house staff to make this to happen, because I gotta be honest, these are two blue chippers that came about. It's one of those things, everyone looks around the county and stayed online of who's available. And when they became available, everyone was trying to pursue them, so that we could get what we believe to be the best that were out there. And I want to give thanks to Norma and Joanna and all the officers who worked, because I still can't come back to work yet and can't cover the staff. And so we're now adding to our police department. And I'd like to thank our city administrator and staff and council for allowing us to hire. So thank you very much.
I want to say thank you for having me. I'm honored to be serving this beautiful city. I really am. Thank you so much.
I want to thank the police department, staff, and the city for giving me the opportunity to serve this community. Thank you.
We welcome you, two officers, and the rest of safety for choosing Guadalupe to as your home base. So we appreciate it. We're glad to have you on board. So, all right. Next item is proclamation Human Trafficking Awareness Month, January 2024. And I believe the person that's going to receive it is delayed somewhere. in transit. But I'm gonna go ahead and read the proclamation. Proclamation, Human Trafficking Awareness Month, January 2024. Whereas human trafficking is a form of modern slavery that occurs in every state, including California, wherein victims are forced to work in various forms of labor exploitation, including but not limited to the commercial sex acts and other services that are induced through force, fraud, or coercion. And whereas due to the isolated and discrete nature, many individuals across the globe are unaware that trafficking exists in their communities. And whereas it is estimated that more than 28 million people around the world are victims of human trafficking. And whereas the human trafficking victims face a cruelty that has no place in a civilized world. It is a crime that can take many forms and one that tears at our social fabric, debases our common humanity, and violates what we stand for as a country. And whereas increased education about how to identify human trafficking, along with increased knowledge of in-state resources and services for those affected by criminal exploitation, can help decrease the number of future victims. And whereas the Santa Barbara County Human Trafficking Task Force is committed to using all applicable laws and resources for investigating human trafficking and prosecuting those engaged in it. And whereas the Santa Barbara County Human Trafficking Task Force has worked diligently to bring awareness to the fact that human trafficking occurs closer to home than one might think, that California ranks #1 in the country for reported human trafficking cases, and that Santa Barbara County is home to hundreds of survivors of trafficking and exploitation. And whereas Human Trafficking Awareness Month is an opportunity to recognize the critical role of Santa Barbara County residents play, that all Santa Barbara County residents play in preventing, reporting, and adjudicating these heinous crimes. Now therefore be it resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor and on behalf of the city of Guadalupe, I, Ariston Julian, do hereby recognize January 24th, 2024 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. So, thank the County Human Task Force, for putting this together, and I think the lady that is to receive it on behalf of the task force is en route, so, we're pleased to present this proclamation for the task force and for the city. Okay. Okay, presentation, free for the weekend, fighting back Santa Maria Valley, presentation. Hi, Ellie.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Mina Cortez with Fighting Back Santa Maria Valley.
My name is Brandy Pena with Fighting Back Santa Maria Valley.
And to give you a brief overview of our agency, and just to give you a little bit of a background as to why we're here today. So Fighting Back Santa Maria Valley was founded in 2003. We're here today on behalf of our coalition. Back in 2003, our main focus, our agency was brought together by several concerned members regarding the epidemic of methamphetamine. That was what was the theme back in 2003. So we were founded on our efforts of trying to combat that and providing education prevention to the community. Through our efforts, we've continued to grow with those efforts continued, combating underage drinking, marijuana use by youth, as well as prescription drugs, which now we're facing new epidemics, right? Things that we're facing more recently are epidemics such as fentanyl use and continued use of marijuana use and alcohol use. One of these events that we had through one of our drug-free communities grant was Free for the Weekend. Through that funding, we were awarded years 1 through 10. And through this, we were able to provide drug-free events for students in grades 7 through 8 for the junior high school students. Why junior high school students were our target? Because as most of us know, in junior high is when students begin to experiment. They begin to wonder, they begin to just experiment with things that are out there, right, in our community. Before we go into our presentation, I wanted to share a little bit about some statistics from the California Healthy Kids Survey regarding to Guadalupe specifically. So, during your lifetime, how many times have you used the following? 1 full drink of alcohol out of, we had 11% of students in 7th grade who reported to using alcohol their lifetime. During your life, how many times have you used the following? Marijuana, smoke, vape, or dream. 7% of seventh grade reported using that back in 2022. And for the following question, during your life, how many times have you used the following vape products? We had 11% choose one or more, and these are just students in the seventh grade here in Guadalupe. Additionally to that, we also provide services in the community such as cessation vaping education to students. Since our grant tobacco use prevention education, we've serviced 9 students at Mackenzie Junior High School, provided education to them for students who were caught smoking on campus. So as you can see, those continuous epidemics, those continuing trends are happening in our community of Guadalupe. So if we can start with the presentation of Free for the Weekend. What is Free for the Weekend? So like I said, we used to have, back before, we had funding for the Drug-Free Community Grant where we were able to provide events for 7th and 8th grade students, and we invited students countywide throughout Santa Maria Valley, including Santa Maria, Orchid, and Guadalupe. There was always trouble for us to get the Guadalupe students to go to the Abel Maldonado Youth Center because anyone who lives in Guadalupe knows we have limited transportation. Even though there are more options with busing, it is still hard for students to find transportation, especially late after the bus routes are stopped. So we've always had a low attendance for junior high school students in Guadalupe. So do I click it here?
Yeah, you can do that.
So what was it? So we would host the event, before we'd have over 2,000 students pledged to be tobacco, alcohol, drug, and violence free for the weekend. They would take that pledge that in order for us to be able to invite them to this event, they would show that they would not be using drugs or alcohol or be violent. And in reward to them, we would have this free event for them. We had rock walls, jumping, bounce houses, sumo suits, wrestling, video games, whatever the hot item of the community was, we would have that for them present for students to participate. Our goal with that activity is to show students that they could have a good time without the need to be under the influence. So, like I was saying, we used to have funding for that. Through our coalition efforts now, like I said, our efforts remain the same. We continue to combat those same efforts. Students, right? New trend. There's always new and emerging trends. However, students are still facing underage drinking, marijuana use, now vaping, and fentanyl is what some of the issues that we're facing. Through our coalition, we have some sponsors through the public health department to help us host events throughout in Santa Maria. And our goal is to bring an event here in Guadalupe to allow an opportunity for students to have something to do, right? If you ask students in Santa Maria, what do you do for fun? The answer we get all the time is there's nothing for us to do. When you ask students in Guadalupe, what do you do for fun? The same answer. There's nothing for us to do here, right? If you don't play football, if you don't play a sport here, then you're very limited to what else you can do. So our goal is to provide an event for students to take that pledge, to show them they can have a good time without being under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or using violence. We want to show them that there's still healthy alternative ways for them to have a good time. So what we're looking for in Guadalupe is we're looking for a large space, preferably maybe an outdoor space to be able to have these bounce houses, these activities, have resources for students to be able to connect in town. Donations of food, volunteers, activities, any monetary donation that can go towards the event, something we've been looking for. Sponsors looking for local business and vendors to sponsor the event. And again, we'd like to partner with the local resources available to use in the community. We've had a great support in the past through our events that we've hosted throughout the community. Chief Cash has been one of our supporters in the past, speaking at our tobacco summit. Councilmember Hernandez is part of our coalition effort. So here we are here today as a coalition, as an agency to ask for some continued support. And in hopes that we are able to find a location here in town where we're able to host an event for the students of Guadalupe. And again, to ask if this is a need out there, the students, we did a community assessment where the community found and identified this as a high need throughout Santa Maria, throughout Guadalupe. So we're here to ask for your support. If this is something that we would like to bring here, and we're asking for support in doing so. And then we can have some potential dates.
So the date that we are considering is July 28th and August 2nd, and this would depend on availability. If the space was available, we are hosting 4 of the events, so it'll be a series of events. And we just want to make sure that we are going to our kids. We want our kids to be able for the events to be walking distance and not have to worry about transportation. That's the thought of having one here in Guadalupe. They won't have to worry about transportation. It can be hopefully a central location, and they can just walk there, take themselves there.
Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I'm gonna ask the council for the questions now. How large a space are you gonna need?
So we were originally looking at like Leroy Park, for example.
Mhm.
That is a good option, or Jeff O'Connell Park. We're gonna be hosting them at Grogan Park, Miami Center in Santa Maria. So we're looking for a large outdoor space such as Leroy or Jeff O'Connell Park.
Have you connected with the Boys and Girls Club?
Not the Boys and Girls Club. We did connect through, I believe it was Hannah.
Okay,
I believe it was Hannah.
Just say yeah, Hannah.
I had emailed, Hannah, and, I think, no space was, made available, or not made available, but was identified.
I think it's a no-brainer for us to house it there. So with the school district, with Leeward Park, Boys and Girls Club, with O'Connell Park, it's a matter of, connecting with us and with the school and putting it together, because you're right, having to get to Santa Maria is tough. And we need to have something here locally for kids, so. Are you gonna connect with? We need to make sure you're connected to the city somehow.
We have Councilmember Hernandez, who's been a
Okay.
great asset to
Well,
us.
she will make sure that we're connected to you.
Yes, I think maybe all questions can go to Hannah. I met Gina because her daughter was a outstanding candidate for Golden Bee.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
That was the.
Have we reached out with the school districts by chance?
Yeah.
Say that one more time.
Have we reached out to our local school district?
We haven't connected with the school district, but we are within the school district. They're one of our partners, one of our contractors through our program. So I think that'll be our next step. But before we connected to the school, we wanted to bring this as a community-wide,
For sure.
just
Sure.
like inclusion, right? We want to bring everybody on board. We need support. We need all hands on deck in order for this to be successful. So our number one priority is to be inclusive to everybody and get everybody on board, get everybody excited about it, and then reach out to the school where the kids are.
Well, since Christina has nothing to do, and you serve as a point person to move this forward, because your report is right on. It was brief, but it was right on. So whatever we can do and whatever the council can do and the city can do, working with the school district, working with you all, we'll make it happen. So.
Perfect. We'll be in contact with Hannah, Councilmember Hernandez, and anyone else who would like to be part of it. I can have that information, can share information with Councilmember Hernandez or Hannah. We can reach out and be in contact.
Okay, let's do that. So,
All right, thank you for your support.
thank you.
for your
Thank
time.
you. Good
Thank
job.
you.
All right, next time, community participation. I see, Belinda Popovich, wishes to speak on an item. Good evening.
Mayor, council members. So I'm Belinda Popovich and I'm the new marketing director for the city of Santa Maria Valley Railroad. And we're seeking your support for our bid for the Federal Railroad Administration grant called the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Grant, or CRISI for short. Currently, we are operating with 2 older locomotives that hold a Tier 0 rating with the EPA and FRA. This tier designation for older locomotives lacks the current energy efficiency that the modern Tier 4 locomotives have. And a Tier 4 locomotive, that designation is the highest and cleanest that is currently available for the EPA. And so we are trying to go after 2 new Tier 4 locomotives to replace our aging fleet. With that, the railroad has always been a cleaner and greener mode of transportation according to the EPA. And since '06, when our newest owner has taken over, our freight traffic has been steadily growing. And with this increase that we still see today, we're still negotiating even new contracts that'll keep bringing more freight into the community. We are also looking to add in bringing back the public excursion rides. So that way we could see relaxing, enjoyable rides with meals, Santa like the little Santa excursion going between Santa Maria and Guadalupe to serve both of our communities. And it's our hope that with these new Tier 4 locomotives, that it's going to really shore up our reliability, efficiency, and cleanliness, so that way we can continue to be good partners within the community. So we are hoping that we can count on you for support through a letter, which I emailed to Todd. And then also if the city is considering that they might do a donation towards our matching fund drive, we would greatly appreciate that. We are aware of how tight of a budget that we do run here. So any type of support, whether through letter or monetary bulk, is always appreciated.
How much what do these units cost?
Typically, they're gonna be around 4 million
For one?
for one. Yeah, so we're going after two. We're also seeking additional funding from the Volkswagen. They have a special little grant that they have to give out, because they were caught fibbing on, their emissions on vehicles within
remember that.
California. And so they're having to reinvest. So we're gonna be counting on, both Chrissy and VW grant to help us meet that.
Good. I guess by consensus would council agree to move that forward to.
Sure, a letter, support.
When would you need the letter by? I mean, probably today, but.
You know what, it's, probably within the next couple of weeks, actually, would be fine, so that gives you all time to
Okay.
review the letter, so if there's any changes that you would like to make,
Okay.
that's always welcome as well.
Okay, that sounds good.
Wonderful, thank
All
you
right,
so much.
thank you. You want to speak on that or you? Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, we'll go to item 8, and calendar, consent calendar. Following items are presented for city council approval without discussion as a single agenda item in order to expedite the meeting. Should a council member wish to discuss or disapprove of an item, it must be dropped from the blanket motion of approval and considered as a separate item. Is there a council member that wishes to pull an item for further discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? 8 through 11.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar A through F.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All ayes. Okay, management reports, city administrator, information only.
Yes.
Mr. Bodum.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, staff, public. Just to start off with, as you know, Shannon left July of 2023. And we were with Dwayne for a while. He's now gone. And I just want to introduce you to Jeff Vanden Eyck, who you've approved to be our contract city engineer. And without further ado, I'd like to have Jeff stand up, and he had worked here, prior to Shannon. So a lot of you are familiar with him, and he's very experienced and has a lot of knowledge of the city. So the floor is yours, Jeff.
Mr. Mayor, council members, it's a pleasure to be here with you again. Many of you were on my council, or the mayor was in his seat when I was serving as the city engineer from 2014 to 2019 before that position was brought in house. And I'm pleased to be able to work with you again. I understand the hard work that you guys put in this. I actually also serve as a planning commissioner for my own community, and so I understand some of the things that you have to deal with. So I'm just very happy to be able to serve you. There's a lot happening in Guadalupe. I'm getting up to speed as quickly as I can, and so I'm sure we'll be bringing back some things to you here shortly.
Well, welcome again. And we were talking, we had a meeting with SBCAG staff, and we brought your name up. So you're gonna be hearing from them and vice versa. So again, welcome. Any questions?
Do you want to quiz them or anything, or?
No.
Okay.
Thank you for all the help that you provided.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Director of Public Safety, information only, item A, Director of Public Safety report for January 23, 24. We have the Police Department report for December 2023, Fire Department report for December 2023, and Code Compliance report for December 2023. Is there any questions regarding the reports? Or Chief, you wanna chime on anything?
Almost got through this. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, and citizens. Just quick update on the police. I think our, I don't know, city administrator, city clerk, human resources, pretty much everything. Amelia over here for assisting us. We are now, the police officers that we hired, the two, they also have to be EMT trained. So we're looking to provide additional medical response in our community. So that's gonna be a plus. The fire department, we still have one opening for fire engineer, that we'll be working with human resources to see how we're gonna go on that one. And then in code compliance, emergency preparedness, our code compliance officer, he is in the last phase. He went this week, he'll finish up at the end of this week. He's in the Emergency Preparedness Academy, back east, he's snowed in. But he'll come back, an academy graduate from the Emergency Preparedness Academy, in Maryland. And we also have the emergency plan, I think council for, they asked to add the railroad derailment aspect of the emergency plan. So that has now been completed. That'll be put together during the week and we'll be able to put that online on our webpage as soon as possible. And that's my report unless there's any questions.
Any questions, Chief? You know, I had a comment, or a question, there was an incident at the senior center and our staff doesn't dispatch officers.
Correct. The office does it.
What is the number?
I don't have the number. I
Okay.
gave it to the person there, but it is the Santa Maria, but it's the Guadalupe Santa Maria Police Dispatch number.
Right,
And that they're radio an officer to go. People still want to call into the office, but the officers aren't there.
well, that's important for people to know, instead of calling, 343-2112,
That's correct.
that's the office. So you're not gonna get much action in terms of dispatching the police officers, so I think it's a 928 phone number.
I'm not sure. It's on the website.
Okay, well, people need to understand that if there's an issue that they wanna get a hold of a police officer here in Guadalupe, they need to call that dispatch and they they dispatch that person directly.
That's correct.
Yeah, as opposed to, the city staff and the office staff, they don't do that anymore. In the past,
We used to have a dispatching
we used to
center
have
here.
dispatch, but not anymore, so we've gotta get that, I guess it's 92, I have it in my phone. But people need to know that they have that number in case there's any issue. Even when there's an issue of loud music, or there's something going on in the community that needs the police to respond to, they contact that number. And then that dispatch gets officers directly, or officers, so.
Can I add to that? Is there any way that we can get something sent down, with the mailer, with the bill? Something,
Sure.
you know, added on with the new numbers, so.
Sure, we can put that
attach to the
together
Refrigerator or whatnot,
and send it to so that we can get that mailed out.
Do you want like an insert?
just an insert, yeah.
Yeah, we probably need to know. So I do have the number if you guys want me to just blurt it out real quick.
Yeah.
805-928-3781, but then it's extension 2277.
3781-805.
805-928-3781, extension 2277, and it's non-emergency calls.
Right,
Yeah. See
if
if they
there's
call,
emergency, it's 911.
Exactly.
Right,
or they call my cell. Yeah.
yeah,
So that number would redirect you to our city,
Yes, to the police officers in the field.
very, okay.
I keep seeing the hand back there, you need to come up here, ma'am.
Oh, you didn't ask.
Pardon?
Nothing.
Okay,
Well, last week there was there was a really loud party and at 1:45, I called 343-2112 and
nobody answered,
yeah, they did.
okay, well,
And it got taken care of, so, that was at 1:45 in the morning.
1 in the morning,
Yeah,
kudos to whoever answered that phone.
They must be in the office.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's good, that you can do that, but I would call this other item, 928 number first. But I think that Gilbert's right, we need to have that where people have it at hand, so instead of calling and finding out that nobody's at the office at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Somebody was, I don't know, maybe it was the janitor.
I don't. We don't have a janitor at that time. Unless it was Robert.
It was Robert.
That's pretty good.
Any questions of the chief? Or any of these items? All right, we'll go to item 11, Human Resource Manager, information only. Ms. Diego.
Rather briefly, public safety, chief actually went into the detail of that with our two officers that were sworn in again this evening. Wastewater treatment plant, they offered two conditional offers of employment to two candidates, and they actually, and then we followed it with a formal offer of employment. They started last Tuesday, the 16th. This is again the 12-month program where there's no guarantee of regular employment after that, but they do get hands-on training with our experienced operator too and our supervisor out there. And so that went well. We were pleased with that. On the recreation position, recreation manager, one more time, recreation services manager position, we reposted the position due to the 5% goal that was added at the 12 council meeting. So we reposted that. There were 5 resumes that we considered post screening. One of those candidates dropped out, so I did screen the other 4. And as it turns out, on this Thursday, we will be interviewing 3 of those candidates. I did regret the 4th candidate, a very nice individual. However, the experience level was very, very light. On HR, as much as I'd like to say the position was filled, it was not yet. We paused the recruitment during the holidays for a number of reasons, but one in particular was that we knew we were going to go into council and request a 50% increase in the salary range, which was approved on the 9th, and so the position has been
Did you say
reposted.
50%?
50.
There's a 50?
Yeah.
Right. No, it is 50.
Is that a Freudian slip? So we're actively recruiting for that again, thankfully. Hopefully within the next reasonable period, that position will be filled.
How do I derail that situation?
Labor relations, we wrapped up all that needed to be taken care of with the approval of the SEIU MOU. That was a little hairy, but with the cooperation of Angie and payroll, we got it all done. And the standby issue actually was also handled separately, but that was done in this coming pay period, I believe, which is Friday. Workers' comp, still dealing with long-term claims, nothing more to report on that, and miscellaneous, and preparing a job description for the senior center, which is called Senior and Community Center Activities Coordinator. And I am targeting that for the 2/13/24 council meeting, and we will get that done. This will be a decision that falls under SEIU, so I will be dealing with Rob Perry on that. Hopefully in our part of this week. So that'll be good. And continue on ongoing updating me on the future plans. That's about it.
What time are the interviews? For
9:45 and 10:30. And you will get a packet prior to that.
any questions of, Amelia?
Just out of curiosity, where are jobs usually posted for city?
Oh, you mean, well, on the city website, of course, but
They're
posted
posted on our website,
they're And-
posted on, Indeed, they're posted on throughout the bulletin boards here. Depending on the decision, they could be posted on specialized, sites. And at, the library. Wherever there's a bulletin board.
Quick
All right.
question about it. What was the date of those interviews?
For the recreation manager?
Yes.
Thursday.
The date is Thursday,
Yeah.
this coming, 2 days from now.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, no further questions of, Amelia? Seeing none, we'll go to item 12, public hearing. Public Safety Facilities Development Impact Fee Nexus Study. Mr. Senko. I'm actually gonna defer to my colleague Wendy Stockton, who did the work for that.
She's waving.
Okay. Can you, if you don't mind, will you basically read the bullet points that are noted here so the public can understand? Somebody read the bullet points.
Oh, we lost her?
Well, I'm gonna read the bullet points while you find her.
Oh, there she is.
There's recommendation, hold a combined public hearing for the study and ordinance. Consider all evidence, including testimony evidence, evidence, staff report, and the City of Guadalupe Public Safety Facilities Development Impact Fee Nexus Study dated October 6, 2023. Item 2, adopt resolution 2024-08, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Guadalupe approving the City Public Safety Facilities Development Impact Fee Nexus Study dated October 6, 2023, and introduce and conduct first reading by title only, waiving further reading of the ordinance number 2024-514, amending Title 13 of the Guadalupe Municipal Code to establish a public safety facilities development impact fee and make a finding that the approval of the study and the ordinance are exempt from CEQA. Did you find Wendy? There she.
Yep.
I see her up there. So.
Good
Okay.
good evening, Mr. Mayor and city council members, members of the public and staff. How is my voice?
We hear you.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, you've taken away all of my thunder by reading the bullet points.
Okay, you can read them again if you want.
No, that's okay. I'll go on. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Wendy Stockton. I am the assistant city attorney, which means when Philip's not here, I'm his backup. And tonight I have the honor of presenting the Public Safety Facilities Impact Fee Staff Report. Staff is proposing that Guadalupe adopt its first development impact fee. The groundwork for this fee has been done by Chief Cash and also a gentleman named Carlos Villarreal with a company called Wildan Financial Services. And I think that Mr. Villarreal would be there tonight. Am I correct?
Yep, he's here.
Okay, he's hiding out. It's my pleasure to be able to give you kind of the naughty bits, the law part of this presentation, and the really interesting stuff. The meat of it can be provided by Mr. Villarreal and Chief Cash. So let me go into those naughty bits. Chief Cash envisions a situation where development, when it's new, comes to Guadalupe. Those developers will pay a per square foot fee that will help to build and equip new public safety facilities. The amount of that fee that is proposed, you can find on page 3 of the staff report, kind of about 2/3 of the way down, or actually halfway down. You can see fee per square foot. These amounts were proposed in the fee study that was prepared by Wildan and Associates based on a large amount of data from Guadalupe that they considered, the goal of which is to keep Guadalupe in the same situation it is now with public safety facilities when new development comes in. State law does allow cities to charge a development impact fee, and that includes a fee such as the one that's been proposed by Chief Cash and Wildan Associates. But rather shockingly, I know you'll be shocked to hear that Sacramento requires cities to jump through quite a few different hoops before, during, and after charging a development impact fee. I can't see you, but I know you have shocked looks on your faces. Before you're allowed to charge a fee, you have to do what has already been done, and that is to put together a detailed study. the basis of the fee should be a square foot fee, and that has to be stated clearly in the report. During the process of putting a development fee in place, you have to hold public hearings, both on the study, which if you wish to adopt it later, you can do after public hearing. Also hold a public hearing on the ordinance, and after that time, you can also begin to adopt the ordinance. For convenience tonight, we've asked to combine the public hearing on the study and on the fee, so that if anybody wants to talk about it, it won't be confusing. Hopefully that makes sense. After this, you would approve the study and approve the fee by resolution or ordinance as a matter of state law. As a part of these actions, it would be important to consider the environment. Staff has reviewed both the proposed study and the proposed fee, and staff believes that there would be no environmental impact for the reason that state law says when you're just considering a rate or a toll, that's not an environmental impact. And so you can proceed with what's called a categorical exemption. If you agree with that staff determination, you would authorize and direct staff to file a notice of exemption with the County of Santa Barbara. So after you would adopt a fee, if you choose to do so, there's a large number of staff actions that are expected by state law to occur. And I've listed those in the staff report. These fees are a heavy staff undertaking, whether or not you ever collect a fee. So it's worth considering carefully when you go into this area. The laws are only getting more explicit, more onerous, and the result, if you don't follow the law, can be that the city is expected to give back any fee that it has collected. So it's very important to make sure that you follow all the, dot all the I's and cross all the T's. One additional note that I'd like to make before I ask for any questions that you might have on the legal side is that on the ordinance on page 2, if you can turn with me to that, you'll see a subparagraph D near the bottom of the page. In the second line of subparagraph D, you'll see the word police in front of the word facilities. And that should instead say public safety facilities. It's my request that if you choose to proceed with the fee tonight to adopt the ordinance, that you would make that amendment to the ordinance and say public safety facilities system instead of police facilities system.
I'm sorry, you're referring to, you said page 2
Page 2 of the ordinance.
of the ordinance itself. Okay, thank you.
That concludes my staff report. I'll be happy to try to address any questions that you might have.
You got it. Thank you. Did you say you completed the report?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay, it's pretty detailed. I mean, it's,
Yeah, it is.
Very detailed.
We're gonna open it up to,
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. I believe that the engineer or the firm that prepared the study is here.
Okay.
Like to say something.
all right,
At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Carlos Villarreal. This came about is every city in Santa Barbara County and the county, they have impact fees. And we'd be the last one to kind of get on board. And as we can see, the city is growing. And currently right now, all our police and fire resources are at the north end of the city. And the south end of the city is growing. And so we're looking at this aspect so that we could properly cover that portion of the city that currently do not have any police or fire facilities, in their direct area. But with that, we'd like to, Carlos, if you'd like to start, please.
Thank you, Chief Cash. My name is Carlos Villarreal. I was the project manager for this study. I've been working with Wildan on impact fees of one sort or another for about 18 years. So yeah, I'm just gonna get into the presentation here. I will first start off with a little bit of impact fee 101, although Wendy did a great job in explaining a lot of the legal aspects. I will then get into some of the methodology and assumptions. And then finally, I'll show you the proposed maximum justified fee schedule and look at how the fees compare to some of your neighbors. All right, so impact fee 101s, just so that we're all on the same page. Development impact fees are a one-time charge typically imposed at the building permit stage on all projects within a defined geographic area. In this case, the fees would be uniformly charged citywide. And the key aspect of an impact fee is that bottom point there, that the fees fund the facilities that are needed to serve new development. So the fees do not fund ongoing operations and maintenance costs. They don't fund ongoing salaries. It's really about funding the facilities and infrastructure that's needed to serve that new development. In California, it's the Mitigation Fee Act and Government Code 66,000 that defines how cities and other agencies calculate and implement impact fees. Our study needs to make several key findings. First, we need to show that new development creates the need for facilities, that new development will benefit from the use of that fee revenue, and that the fees are roughly proportional to each unit of the development share of the facilities costs. We also need to document the purpose of the fee and how the city intends to use the fee revenue. In this case, we're talking about public safety facilities, and that includes both fire and police facilities. Recently, at the state level, AB 602 was passed, and it requires, like Wendy had mentioned before, that several things be done to maintain your fee program ongoing. The first bullet point there is sort of a transparency issue. Once, if you do choose to adopt the impact fees, you would have to make your current impact fee schedule, any reporting, annual reporting available online so that people can follow up on all of those items. This hearing has been noticed with a 30-day notice so that we can comply with the law. You don't currently have fees, but one big technical change is that residential fees need to be charged per square foot. And so this way the fees scale with the size of the development. So larger homes pay bigger fees than smaller homes. And so that supports proportionality of the fees. We've also complied with the other technical requirements there. We include a CIP in the study. We document the level of service and the fees are not increasing because you don't currently have fees. But we evaluated all of the assumptions in the study. So here's our basic methodology. We start by estimating demand for facilities, and we think about demand in terms of people. So people that live and work in the city. We can then identify facility standards, and I'll describe this a little bit more in a subsequent slide, but a facility standard is a measure of demand for facilities. We can then use those standards to estimate the facilities needed and the cost of those facilities to serve new development, allocate a share of those future facilities to accommodate growth. In some cases, impact fee programs can't fully fund the identified facilities because existing development would also benefit from them. In this case, we are asking new development to maintain your existing level of service, so the impact fees will fully fund new development share of those facilities. And then finally, we calculate the fee schedule per unit of new development. So let's get into some of the assumptions that we used in the study. I mentioned first that we estimate demand for facilities in terms of people that live and work here. And this first table shows those estimates. We estimate existing residents and workers as of 2023, which was the most current year when we completed the study. And then we projected out to 2050. We use data from your planning department to identify potential dwelling units that could be developed in the city and use that to drive the estimate of future residents. We also use data from SDCAG to identify the projected growth in workers. Another thing that's going on in this table is that we weight the workers by a worker demand factor. The idea is that people that work in the city have a different level of demand for public safety facilities compared to someone who lives in the city. So if you think about someone coming into the city 40 hours per week to work, or certain businesses generate more calls than, go to a person's home, for example. So we use call data from the fire department to weight the calls going to residential locations as opposed to calls going to non-residential locations to be able to weight the relative demand of workers. We multiply the worker demand factor by the estimate of workers, and that gives us resident equivalents. And that is what's going on in the service population column. It's the number of residents plus the number of weighted workers. All of that constitutes demand for public safety facilities. I mentioned facility standards a little bit earlier on, and this slide kind of gets at that with the particular assumptions used in this study. In this case, we're using what's called an existing facility standard. The idea is we want new development to maintain the same level of service that is currently being provided today. What we can do is we can quantify all of your public safety facilities and compare that to your existing service population. And that gives us our existing facility standard for 1,000 service population. So you can see there, we list out the station building square feet, the current acreage, police vehicles, fire vehicles, apparatus, et cetera. And we can quantify the current amount of those facilities per resident or per 1,000 residents as exists today. We can then calibrate the fee so that as new development occurs, new development pays to maintain that same level of service. The way that works in terms of the math is we sum up the replacement cost of all of those facilities, divide that by your existing service population, and that gives us the existing cost per capita that we are asking new development to fund at that same level of service to provide in the same proportion of facilities going forward. The bar graphs on the right are just a graphical representation of the concept. We want the increase of demand to match the facilities needed to serve that demand. This next table demonstrates the capital improvements needed to maintain that existing level of service. You see we have the facility standards there. We have the projected growth in service population. We can multiply the two together, and that gives us the amount of facilities needed to maintain those standards. We then know what it costs to build for example, a square foot of building space or acquire an acre of land. We multiply the standard by the unit cost, and that gives us the total cost. So between now and 2050, in today's dollars, it would cost just over $3 million to add a proportional amount of public safety facilities to serve the projected new development that will be coming into your community. And finally, we get the fee schedule. We take the cost per capita and multiply it by an assumption of residents per dwelling unit or workers per 1,000 square feet of building space, and that gives us our base fee. Wendy had mentioned that there's several administrative tasks that have to be done every year to keep up an impact fee program. So we included an administrative charge of 2% that can be used by the city to fund those administrative tasks, including documenting how the fee revenue is being used, updating the fee schedule where appropriate, any legal costs associated with the fee program. That can all be funded with the administrative charge. We sum the base fee with the admin charge. That gives us the total fee per average size dwelling unit or per 1,000 square feet. And then we divide that fee per average size dwelling unit by an assumption of 1,587 square feet, which is the average size dwelling unit that's been built in your city between 21 and 2023. So basically the last 2 years, the building permits were used to estimate the average size unit. You divide, again, that total fee by the average size unit, and that gives us our fee per square foot for residential, and then the fee per 1,000 square feet for non-residential by 1,000, and that gives us the fee per square foot. So these are the maximum justified fees that you could charge. As a policy decision, you could always implement something less than this, but this is the maximum amount that's supportable by our analysis. And then finally, we wanted to give you some context as to what some of your neighbors are charging. So this is a bar chart showing what the fee would be like for a 2,000 square foot unit. Obviously, if you built a bigger unit, the fee would be higher. If you built a smaller unit, it would be lower in your city. And then we compare to some of the other jurisdictions in the region. I should note that Arroyo Grande, Pismo Beach, and Santa Barbara County, their fees are all very old, and I am currently working to update those fees with those jurisdictions. So it is likely that they will increase. It's too early to say what they will be, but this is just the current fee schedule. So, a year or two from now, you may see different amounts, but, at this point in time, this is how the maximum justified fee supported by our analysis would compare to the neighbors. We also put together what the fees would look like for a 1,200 square foot multifamily unit. Under this scenario, Pismo Beach would have the highest fees. your fees would be amongst the highest, but you can see the range of the comparison jurisdictions there as well. And then finally, we took a look at what a 10,000 square foot commercial building with the fees. Again, similar story as the comparisons for the other land uses. So, just wanted to give you some policy options to consider. You could, like I mentioned before, you could always implement something less than the maximum justified fee amount. Some jurisdictions, particularly if they're increasing the fees, then they've never had them, or if they're increasing the fees and they haven't updated them in some time, they choose to phase in the fee increases. So for example, one year they would implement 50% of the maximum justified fee, the next year 100%. This would give development community some time to respond or to be able to plan for the increase in the cost. You don't have to do that, which is something that some jurisdictions choose to do. And then finally, some jurisdictions do choose to exempt or reduce fees for certain land uses that you want to encourage. So for example, affordable housing, some jurisdictions cut the fees in half or exempt fees altogether. Really, that's a policy decision that your council could make. And that's the end of my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the study. Thank you.
Pretty detailed.
Very detailed.
There's questions from the council? Bill, Todd, anything? Before we open it to public?
Who would be overseeing the impact fees, in the city side?
What's that?
Who would be, overseeing the, fees?
I believe it would be, and I think it'd be something that would probably go into, the master fee schedule, I would assume. Not 100% sure, but that's where I'm thinking it would, you would see it.
Yes.
Because it's hitting, developers, right? So it would go through planning, yeah, it would be on that planning.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Now, I might have missed it, but, is the impact fees for the development in the development phase, or is it based on, a building permit? So that'd be my question to how the study is. I'm assuming it's during the development phase for the developer to pay, based on the number of, building units. So that's my question. I probably misread it.
They're doing a sidebar right now.
Because I mean, we have a large development that, you know, now we could benefit from if it's based on the building permit.
Well, this should have happened 30
Yeah,
years ago.
right.
Yeah.
You got a question?
Todd has a question.
I may have missed it. Is it the fees and the impact based on the development and the development agreement beforehand, or is it during the building permit part of it? So, for example, Pasadena might have 400 new homes. Would it be based on, it's already developed, it's already been approved, not developed, approved? Would it be coming in based on each individual single lot?
If there's already a development agreement, you know, I would refer to the terms of that development agreement. If the development agreement is not yet in place, then each lot would pay the fee as they pull the building permit.
Okay.
For what it's worth, that's the question I was asking him, and because I had that question come to my mind too, and I wanted the answer. Pasadena does have a development agreement, so as those building permits come on, we're not gonna be able to charge this fee. It doesn't change Mr. Villarreal just said it doesn't change the math. There's nothing in it, just might reduce the projected revenue because he was unaware that there's a development agreement in place. It's too bad there's quite a few homes. Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, I thought of that question too late as well. Should have probably been, should have been made aware of that during the process by planning staff. Okay. But anyway, it's only gonna, I don't know, we can maybe by the next meeting get a projection of the difference, in the long run, what the potential revenue loss would be from not being able to collect on those particular homes. Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor, if you
yes,
want a reference from the proposed ordinance, that would be on page 4 of the ordinance under subparagraph E at the bottom. There's a area that says fee reduction. Number 1 under that paragraph, talks about a development agreement being in place and the process that would occur in that instance.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before I open it to public hearing? Okay, at 6:06, it's open to the public for public comments. 6:07.
It's,
7:06.
is it reflective? Yeah.
I was just wondering when, Hoshway digs his way out of snow and comes back here. Are we ever going to have like a collective, class or demonstration or instruction on what to do when there's like, an emergency, like a earthquake or whatever, so any kind of emergency, I mean.
I think you're thinking about
Yeah.
what's coming up. The next agenda item or one of the.
Our next agenda item will be speaking to that.
Okay. Well, I was always ahead of my.
That's good. Okay, Garrett.
Just a real quick question regarding the impact fee study. I was wondering if there was already a development agreement for the Pasadena commercial properties. Cause I understand there's one for the homes, but there's 13 acres of commercial.
You know, I don't know the answer to that, but
We can check.
we'll report on that back at the next meeting as well, in addition to the potential difference that the revenue projection would have
Okay,
from the residential.
thanks, just curious.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be a good place for our fire and police station.
Ah.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, we're closing at 7:00. Can't see the reflection, 7:08?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, with, any comments from the staff?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure sorry.
Yes.
Just want to make sure you reference the, late document that we got, submitted today.
Yeah, before us, there was a document that was sent to the city, and the title is, which will be included in the minutes. Supreme Court hears arguments and landmark impact fees. And I don't, there's a stamp on it, but I can't tell, so
Case, I think.
that'll be included in our minutes and public hearing. All right. so we're
Mr.
looking
Mayor,
for-
would you like a response to that from legal?
On this letter,
Yes.
as long as your response isn't as long as the letter. Go ahead, respond.
Go ahead,
if you will.
The person who wrote the letter about the Sheets case, is true that development impact fees do potentially present legal issues if they're not properly done. And with our ordinance that's proposed, there's an extra procedure in the ordinance whereby a person who feels that the amount of the fee calculated by staff is incorrect can do an appeal through staff and through the city council. I didn't believe that there was any procedure of that type involved in the Sheets case, so I think we're a little different in that case.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, that response plus your whole presentation, so. So we have a request before us to approve resolution 2024-08, resolution of city council, the city of Guadalupe approving the city of Guadalupe Public Safety Facilities Development Impact Fees Nexus Study dated October 6, 2023. So we need a resolution approval on that item. Begin with, is there such a motion?
And I believe, and with the updating of the public safety facilities, I think Wendy mentioned on that form, that she would like.
That pertains to item 3.
And is this the first reading? This is the first reading? I got it, Wendy. There's 2 action items. There's the resolution, the correction that Councilmember Henry was talking about
is related to the ordinance. So that's the next thing that, and then we prefer separate actions on the resolution and the ordinance. Okay, so is there a motion to approve resolution 2024-08?
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-08.
Is there a second?
One second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Acosta Junior,
Aye.
Councilmember Robles,
I,
Councilmember Hernandez, Councilmember Lozelle absent, Mayor Julian.
Aye. Approved. And so the item 3 is that we want to introduce and conduct the first reading by title only, waiving further reading of ordinance 2024-514. Is there a motion?
I make a motion for ordinance number 2024-514 for first reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Do roll call, please, again, please.
Councilmember Acosta Junior,
Aye.
Councilmember Robles,
I,
Councilmember Hernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Lozelle absent, Mayor Julian.
Aye, it passes, so. Thank you, Mr. Villarreal and Wendy for your time and an excellent data that we read thoroughly.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you too, Phil.
And Chief?
And Chief, thanks for bringing it up because this is long.
Yes.
This is way overdue, so. Okay, we're going to regular business facility use agreement, the Guadalupe Union School District for the city gymnasium. Ms. Sanchez.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is also a long overdue item. So the recommendation is for City Council to review and approve the facility use agreement with the Guadalupe Union School District. Just some background, many of you are aware, as 2 of you are coaches, or have been coaches in the past for GUSD. They do not have their own gymnasium, so they have been, since I've been here, and I'm assuming for a while before that, have been using the auditorium for all of their athletic uses. So that includes volleyball and basketball, which basketball is actually split into 2 different seasons because they have a 7th grade season and then an 8th grade season. And then also for now that Guadalupe Wrestling is blanketed under Guadalupe Union School District, it would be for that as well. So after speaking with Dr. Hemdell, the main items that we wanted to cover were who's going to be in charge of the facility while these games or practices are being run, and then mostly the costs as well. So the way that we kind of formatted it was for game days to have a city building attendant present. Just because they do provide staff for the games, but there's so many kids in there that it would be too much to expect them to have staff in the gym for the game itself and also in the hallways and the restrooms. So we'll have our trustee building attendant there for the games, and then for practices, because the practices are limited to just the players and the coaches, we don't require them to have a building attendant for that. They, as many groups in Guadalupe are also have to deal with, don't have like a huge budget to be putting towards, just having a building attendant there for practices, and we don't really see the need to have one as long as they have sufficient amount of staff for the amount of players that they have. And also with adding the lock to the gymnasium, we've been mitigating the issue of having kids kind of like wandering around unsupervised. And after telling the athletic director that situation, they show up right at practice, they wait at the door for their coach, they go in, they're not really wandering around like they were before. They're not unsupervised, they're with their coach, and then
they lock up the gymnasium right after practice, so there's no kids lingering there by themselves playing, they're going home, right after practice. And then in terms of, cost, basically the way that we settled on a cost was, how much it would cost to pay a third-party service to come in and clean the gymnasium. With just 2 staff and all the facilities and the parks that we have, there's just no way that they can clean it the amount of times per week and the way that it needs to be cleaned, to be, number one, safe for the kids that are playing on the court, and then also just clean the way that we want it to be cleaned. So part of the cost that they'll be paying per practice or per day, it's set up per day, but practice days are different than game days just because of, the cost of building attendant on game days. Those fees will cover the monthly charge to have the gym cleaned, 2 days a week, which will both be on the day of game days to ensure that it's nice and clean for their games. And then any other times that we're using it over the weekend in the agreement, that's on the city. So if the city has somebody renting out on the weekend, we are the ones that are responsible, our staff specifically, to make sure that the gym is cleaned afterwards, and prior to those events. So those costs will cover the monthly, and then any additional won't really be additional. It'll just be saved so that we can use that towards, resurfacing the floor. The floor does need to be resurfaced probably, once each season, so probably once between, August and October, and then another time between October and, February, March. Just depending on the use, so all the additional will be put towards that. Trying to think if there's anything else. Coordination of use, will be through the rec office, which, they've been really good about sending us their schedules prior to the start of the season. They've also been really good about if there's any paying individuals, or at least prior, because they weren't paying, that they've rearranged their schedules to accommodate those, situations. And even moving forward, now that we do have this agreement on the table, they've still been very flexible with if, for example, there's a memorial service or, something where we have to change around the schedule. They're really good about accommodating that and, changing as long as it doesn't have to do with game days. So moving forward, that will be with whoever, comes into the recreation services manager role, but also, in coordination with the facility rental coordinator. Because of this agreement and because of the amount of time that they use the gym, even during like their holiday breaks, because there's no staff here, they do have a set of keys. They were given 1 set of keys for the athletic director and then another 2 sets, which the athletic director will retrieve from those coaches at the end of their seasons and then give them to whoever is next, for that sports season. And then once sports conclude, which will probably be April because of wrestling, at that time we'll collect all the keys back because they won't need them, and then we'll give them back to them again, next August when volleyball season starts. I don't know, Todd, do you have anything else to add?
Well, I just wanted to add that if you approve this tonight, this will also go to the Guadalupe Union School District, their board, for their approval. I don't know when the next meeting is actually, but, and then also I want you to know that we talked it over, and we also, for the use in 2023, from August to January, we sent an invoice for that time outside of this agreement, and they've graciously agreed to pay us for that time, which is different than, so it's the amount of $3,100, so that's what we'll be getting primarily.
Questions of Hannah? Hannah, you complete? Any questions of Hannah?
So let me clarify that, Hannah, it's 70 per day for practice and 80 on game days, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
Looking forward. So we have two items here. One is, the approved resolution 2024-09. Is there a motion to approve that?
Which?
So I got one question.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
No. So for game day,
Mhm.
our attendance in the beer for 4 hours,
Yes.
okay? I think personally, my $80 is gonna cover the amount of electricity, gonna cover any usage of toiletries that are being used along with our attendant to be here to monitor the hallway when I feel GUSD has adequate staff that they could have being here to help monitor that if we're only gonna charge them $80 a day. And if the cases are, the attendant's gonna have to walk facilities, they don't pay in the restrooms, contact, dine, we need to raise that fee per game day up and not be $10 more than practice days. Cause we're putting a body in there to help them. And if we're only gonna do 70 for practice because there's no attendant needed, then I feel we're gonna provide an attendant. They need to supply at least adequate staffing for them. Because that's not fair to our attendant that they gotta go and tell students, oh, you guys need to go inside, or hey, don't pay in the restroom, you know, they gotta eat, so.
So the $80 doesn't necessarily reflect like that day, that's just, yeah, it just averages out. So if you, because I've actually gone through the entire calendar year last year of all of the practices that they had and the game days they had, and figured out the cost, it's more of an average than it is per day because of how many games on average that they have. It does cover that cost, and he actually wouldn't be here for 4 hours because their games start at 5 and then girls usually start at 6, almost like immediately an hour after. So it'd be more like 2. If you want me to try to request a change, I can, but I do feel that it does, the cost at least does cover it. I do understand what you're saying about staffing. I know that they did increase this year the amount of staff members that they had from last year. I think it's just that they're spread kind of thing.
I can add.
No, that's, as long as you, if you did, looking at everything and you feel
Yeah.
comfortable that where we're at on the game days and stuff, but I mean, I'm okay with it. I just wanna make sure that, you know, we're, for the city side, we're doing our homework on it, and it's not something that's not gonna be beneficial to the sense of us having to do
Yeah,
a little more, okay.
yes.
I might add that when we negotiated with Dr. Handel, one of his main things that was to be hands-free in terms of they just pay us and we kind of take care of it, rather than them providing, you know, so that was really one of the main negotiating points when we talked to him. Is that it's sort of hands-free on them, they're giving us money and we take care of things.
They're treating this more like a standard facility rental use would be, rather than them taking responsibility and then there can be miscommunication
Yeah,
or
yeah.
wires getting crossed. It's more just, all right, we will give you guys the money to buy whatever supplies or services that you guys need to provide in order for us to have a clean and safe facility, but they're kind of, that's on us, which I think that that's actually a better way of doing it, because I think in the past when we have tried to do, okay, you're kind of doing it and we're kind of doing it, that's where their confusion starts happening.
I have a question.
Yes.
What about the safety portion of it where, like we were talking about having like somebody else, you know, them having somebody on staff for like medical issues or something that's happened.
So that was discussed, but when we came down to it, a lot of other junior highs don't have like a medical person on site. It's more just you call 911 and whoever is there first. And I think their other thought, which I don't know how we feel about this, but, was that we're right in between fire and police, which, yes, technically that's not on them, but it would only be called if it was an emergency, which regardless of where the emergency is in Guadalupe, it'd still be on fire and police. If it was something more minor where it's like a sprained ankle or sprained wrist, like sprains or fractures or things that aren't an emergency, that's where their staff would need to respond regardless.
One more question.
Yeah.
Do they find like a waiver, like a injury waiver or anything like that?
I gave them our liability waiver that they're supposed to have their students sign. So I will double check and make sure that they're getting those signed, but, they should have them.
I think, we've got the resolution here. It sounds like we need to have some further discussions because there was an issue with wrestling at one
Yes.
point. That a wrestler got hurt and then our fire department had to go over there. There's a community benefit for us, for the fire department to be here, but there should be, to me, some standby, in either from the school side or the city side, but I think, to me, we could look at that apart from what we're talking about now, so.
Yeah, I believe when we did talk about that, he was more, in agreement with having somebody on site if there was like a tournament, like if there was multiple schools in one setting, because obviously that's a lot more bodies, a lot more people around. But if it's just one school versus another school, standardly, a lot of schools will have like an athletic trainer, but that person is not necessarily like EMS trained or trained in that regard. They're just trained in like basic first aid, how to take risks, how to take
With the ability
ankles.
to call out emergency services.
Yeah, we have a open discussion last week with, San Luis County Junior Highs, and I think we're gonna be on board this year to host three matches here at City Hall, so, for future reference, I mean, I think, last year when we had that incident where one of the wrestlers got a concussion, it was great that we had him here, but maybe a standby is something that we need to look into just to be on the safe side. I mean, even any event, even if you have a basketball team playing another basketball team, somebody hits the wall or something, or gets bumped or whatnot, I mean, it's good to have somebody in there standby at least, if they are here at what are they, 50 yards away, technically, our fire department, so something like that would be really beneficial, I believe.
Well, the chief can provide a GSST staff person to cover that. So-
Good segue.
Yeah. We're not finished with this one. Go ahead, Christina.
I'm prepared to make a.
Okay, sure. Resolution.
Any other questions?
Depends.
I make a motion for resolution number 2024-09.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, who seconded? Councilmember Costa Junior,
Aye.
Councilmember Robles,
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Aye.
Councilmember LaSalle, absent Mayor Julian.
Aye. Now there's a facility use agreement that needs to be approved. Is there a motion to approve the facility use agreement?
No,
No?
you don't.
Good. Okay.
That was part of it. Yeah.
All right, cool. Since the chief stood up, there must be, you're next on the docket. Okay. Let me undo my stuff here. All right, item 14, approval for the implementation of volunteer Guadalupe Safety Support Team, GSST. Chief Cash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, and our community here. Just a little background real quick on this is a project that really came forward after the flooding, approximately a year ago.
A year ago, yeah.
A year ago, where we had flooding and this community came together to help our other residents. The biggest part was the volunteers. we were very lucky. People came out of the woodworks to help, but we did not have a plan. And I appreciate one of our citizens was here today to even bring that issue up. What this came about, this was community driven. Wasn't really from the police department, and that's what made it really nice. And right now, as far as the subjects, approval for the implementation of the Volunteer Guadalupe Safety Support Team, GSST, and to equip and support the program, uniforms and training under direction of the Department of Public Safety. And quickly, the Guadalupe Safety Support Team, GSST, that was also community driven. They wanted this to be a community first type program, and it's run by volunteers, and it will assist all city departments. So this is just not for the police department or fire department, but it'll help with rec. If finance has some issues, administration, they're here to lend any kind of volunteer services, but their main focus will be in case of emergencies. As disasters have shown, volunteers play a significant role in both response and recovery phases of volunteers. Volunteers are among the first to arrive on the scene following a major incident or disaster, and they're essential to the shelter management and other operations established in the wake of these disasters. Volunteers will come forward in every major disaster where they emerge spontaneously or have been pre-registered and trained by a response agency. Having a plan in place for how volunteers will be recruited, managed, and utilized will assist the city of Guadalupe in improving the overall effectiveness of their disaster response. Management of the volunteer program, Guadalupe Safety Support Team will be under direction of the Public Safety Department. Volunteers, Guadalupe support team members, anyone trained and authorized by the Department of Public Safety to assist city employees to aid citizens to conduct assigned duties and perform services during any declaration of a national, state, or local emergency. So they will work at the direction of city employees. Partial list of eligibility, age 16 and older. No felony convictions, good moral character, pass a background fingerprint check, pass the Guadalupe Support Team Academy, be physically and emotionally able to perform the duties position, volunteer a minimum of only 8 hours a month, and U.S. citizenship is not required. A partial list of some of the training the GSST members would receive: leadership training, cultural competency, the CERT program, Community Emergency Response Team, first aid, AED, and CER or CPR, psychological first aid. Also be doing check the welfare, senior assistant program, school safety and response, fire safety and fire extinguisher training, traffic control, and active shooter procedures and response. The academy training will consist of 10 academy sessions consisting of 5 2-hour classes, and then a 36-hour CERT training course in community emergency response training. The fiscal impact that we're looking at right now is approximate cost to provide uniforms and equipment for the first 6 volunteers would be about $100 to $150 per person. That would include uniform, shirts, pants, and a public safety ID card. Just to show what the potential shirt would look like. Cool, you wanna? Okay, then I guess.
That won't fit Gene, those
Is this medium? That's my size.
Some of the other things we're looking at is all information will be provided in Spanish. There's an aspect of looking at the junior type program to add into this so that we can prep young people to become volunteers. We see that a lot at our food banks.
I agree.
And I think that's something we want to expand on. And right now, our group board consists of 4. We would like to expand that to see what we're gonna have. We think, we have one of our board members here, but we also heard one of the young ladies here asking about it. Maybe she'd like to volunteer eventually also. But if Garrett, right now he's gonna be our administrative coordinator. with the program. Can I say a few words?
Hey, Garrett.
Who's that guy?
Hello again. I wanted to thank Chief and the Public Safety Department for helping us as a community really organize this because, we started this idea, probably 9, 10 months ago after the flooding and seeing the community response to the emergencies that we had here. It became readily apparent that the city needs to be resilient on its own, the community does, because the city and city staff only has so many resources. So we need to be able to work together as a community with the city to make sure that, we can withstand some of these issues that we have no control over. I see, Tom Brandeberry on the Zoom, and Tom, I know, has done quite a bit here in Guadalupe, in terms of the resilience plan. And it's something that as a community, we take very seriously and we want to be able to look after our own. In other communities, you do have groups that kind of march to the beat of their own drummer, and that has caused issues in other communities. And so with this particular team that we put together, we wanted to make sure that this was something that was done in conjunction with the city. And so that there is good communication back and forth. And it is volunteer. We do want to make sure that we are open to the entire community. Bilingual, trilingual would be fantastic. And we're looking at growing as much as we can within the community. As Chief said, starting at age 16, really kind of developing that mentality that you are part of a larger community. Yeah, we all have to work together. And the idea is that if you start people young and they realize that, as they grow, it's gonna make that much easier. So, yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions you all have.
One of the things that, first of all, does anybody have any questions right now? No. Okay. What, I mentioned when I was looking at this, and of course, Spanish speaking is important. We're looking at, especially with Pioneer Street, a lot of them only spoke, Mixteco. And, we need to make sure that that's the Spanish speaking and outreach to the Mixteco, even having them on board with this program. When, after we put together a list of individuals and groups that helped in this situation, there was a minimum of 42 different individuals and groups that helped. They're scattered, and they needed a head on this organization, so on this effort. So this is perfect, apparatus to get them moving forward. And they need to know, all those individuals that helped with that process need to know that what's going on here, because everybody that we dealt with were saying the same thing. We need to keep this going, and this is a great project. And I noticed it says, enough for 6 volunteers. I mentioned you need to have enough for 12 volunteers or even more than that. So is there a price that you're looking at, or how's this gonna be covered?
Price or numbers? I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you're asking.
What do you have for a budget?
Yeah, finance, it's pretty much whatever I got left in the bank account.
So I haven't put anything together because I didn't know, but is there a cost? We can talk about this.
The background check possibly being included in that as well.
Does the training
Other
cost?
factors like the academy, is that something that we're gonna cover? Is this something that they need to sign up for before they become volunteers?
Yes, all those things right now, we are working to cover within our existing budget. That's why we're starting with the small numbers so that we get it right. All the backgrounds and everything, you saw one of our background investigators here. He's helping us curb some of the costs that we can do that. And uniforms, these things here. So we're covering all those and we're starting, that's one thing we talked about in our meetings. We want to do as far as manageable so that we get it right the first time and, you know, and we take care of the bugs and before we really start to grow this.
What are you guys looking for as like a start date with this to go forward?
Right now, we're looking for the approval and, it'll probably be closer to March. Because we still have the academy, layout, our instructors, our equipment, everything else like that, but, this was our first part here. We have everything as far as the whole concept, everything is really there, but now it's just putting all the paperwork together. And we already have the volunteers to start with and the uniforms, but it's just a matter of paperwork, our trainers, and put that before they probably hit the street by then.
The only reason why I asked is because I wanted to know what budget it's gonna affect. So, if I need to put it in the next one, or if it's gonna affect a little bit of this one.
It'll affect a little bit of this one, but it'll just be with, we're not asking for any funds in this fiscal year.
Chief,
So we'll do it next year.
who's the trainers and what would that cost?
Everything's gonna be in-house, so.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So we're using the fire department and
Gotcha.
police to do training so that we're not paying outside trainers.
Perfect.
You have a core team?
Yes,
So you have commissioners, I know you're.
well, here's one, you wanna name our people on our board?
Certainly, currently the primary three are myself, serving in the administrative capacity. We have community member Grace Babolka, who is a registered nurse and also has significant experience in disaster preparedness and disaster mitigation through her experiences back east.
She's a trainer.
Yes, as a trainer, thank you. And then as the overall coordinator is Mireya Pena, who currently is with Family Service Agency. I'm sure you all know Mireya. So, and also Sam Duarte has voiced his support and his interaction with the planning group as well. So that's currently our core. We'll be recruiting a couple more people, community volunteers that are interested in going through the academy and being able to provide that community support. You know, in effect, this is a pilot program, but we're counting on its continued success and growth.
You know, as we know, you can call, if there's an issue here, you can call the county, you can call anybody else, but it has to come from here first, because, you know, boots on the ground is very, very important. And Gilbert's already volunteered to be part of that group.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's probably necessary. We seen it in January 9th of last year and we kind of knew who all went into effect and people just reached out and Ariston was coordinating a huge, it was a big process to get everything started and going. But then we had a core of it's kind of the same people, that show up to the food bank. So with that being said, maybe I would like to challenge the Parks and Recreation Commission or the council, but I mean, I have no problem with volunteering with something like that for sure. For sure, if you can boots on the ground, that's no problem here.
That was kind of what I wanted to ask, like, is this the training or the academy gonna be offered to like the core people within the city that we know that, you know, we have like the EOC manager, you know, group, if you're gonna extend this training to like the managers or city staff?
That is separate. One thing we wanted to do is to do EOC training for city managers and city council. Scheduling right now has been more of the issue. So we want to make sure the volunteer program will be completely separate. But if we have city employees, they're in an emergency, they're gonna be doing their own functions anyhow.
Right.
But with the EOC operations, that's something that I need to sit down with our city administrator so we can schedule to have that training. Because it's one thing to have our volunteers and our first responders in the field, but we need our decision makers to be able to be here to understand how do we keep the entire operation running. So you're absolutely correct.
It's probably on the plate to do, but an org chart would be important to see who's there and so that people can plug in that within their ability, so.
And it would be beneficial if you reach out to somebody in the community that has, you know, a mixed technical background that can speak and translate and be a part of that whole program.
On that note, I think sometimes when we do our marketing, I do see that flyer, it's only in English. So maybe as we move forward, just being more inclusive of who this message is intended to. So not only our English speaking, but our Spanish speaking. My mom personally would sign me up for everything, but she was only Spanish speaking, so she read more Spanish material.
We have definitely had that discussion throughout the planning process, and as Chief indicated, the idea is that it is open to the wider community. You know, US citizenship in and of itself is not a requirement. One thing though that we are going to try to make sure of is that that members that speak secondary languages besides English, that they are still able to communicate in English. So we don't have somebody that doesn't understand one language, only understands the second language or a secondary language, I guess. I'm not saying this elegantly, but you know, when there's an emergency, we need open lines of communication as much as possible. So we have really wanted to dial in as inclusive of an organization as possible. So your concern is duly noted. It's something that we've thought about. And really quick before I forget, community member Jeannie Mello had asked about emergency training for the community, and that's one thing. As the GSST gets the CERT training and the appropriate training, we want to be able to reach out to the community and provide those kinds of educational opportunities. So you are heard.
So it sounds really, really good, and I hope this comes together. Six people, the initial pilot, but I'd love to see like 12 up there one day, you know, 15.
Yes, that is the plan. But we didn't want to jump in, start out with 15, 20 people and then try to work out the bugs.
But you know, as far as that safety program, that sounds really great too. And once you get it, you know, in stone where you can reach out to the community to come and get this training, you know, as far as a clinic. That's perfect.
You're gonna have a lot of people wanting to be part of it, so that's good.
That's our hope.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
Please.
Is there any way that there might be a grant out there for something like that? Have we checked?
Yes, we've already been in contact with Rose, our grant writer. Yeah, I already sent her
Christine.
stuff and, yes, Christine, so we're looking at that. And on a side note with that, I'm doing some work with 1805. They're preparing for the new concert this year, and that's gonna be one of our grant opportunities to get that money there.
Oh, I see.
In fact, there was just a new grant announced by of all groups, the AARP.
Oh,
But one of the components of their flagship grant programs was for safety. So there are definitely opportunities, and part of it just as with the city, it's resources, because when you have volunteers, everybody is scrambling for time, so.
And Amelia's part of the AARP group, so.
Uh-oh. I just thought of something, I don't recall the nonprofit groups that were involved with the Central Coast Processing, but they're to donate 1%
Sure, we've got
of their
we've got
profits.
people out there.
Yeah, just to let you know,
Yeah,
Chris
there's a lot of
Bellamy from,
folks still
if you need a contact, let me
Even
know.
dispensary.
Thank you.
That's great, since you're gonna be one of our volunteers, Todd, I appreciate all that help. We got a shirt for you.
Make it large.
All right, thank you for that. Any further comments from the council or questions? Jeannie's
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Good.
So, my question still hasn't been answered. When this all gets done and solidified, let's say tomorrow, everything was a go. How do you plan to let the citizens know that this is, this is where they go, this is what they need to do, this is who they need to contact? We can't put it on the marquee, so,
But I think this is the first step, approving this resolution and moving it, giving the go-ahead to, to.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Develop it.
Yeah,
If we could put something on the city website also, Garrett.
Yes, there will,
Yeah,
there has to be a marketing plan in place.
Sure.
But to do
Yeah.
the marketing plan first is
Right.
putting the cart before the horse.
yeah.
exactly, but I may point out that there are a lot of citizens that don't know how to access our website,
Hmm.
so.
There are multiple ways of, you got a marketing guy over here that can help do that, aside from the website.
Right.
And other aspect, like I said, we're gonna try every different avenue. We still have our water bills that we could put to send out to people, so and we gotta be realistic. We're very limited right now in our numbers of people, but we do have different avenues to get it out, and we will work on that, and maybe you being a volunteer could help us get the word out also.
I'm pretty shy.
Turn this mic off.
Is there a motion to adopt resolution 2024-10?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Discussion, roll call please.
Councilmember Costa Junior,
Aye.
Councilmember Robles,
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Aye.
Councilmember Lasali absent, Mayor Julian.
Aye, all ayes. Thank you, Garrett, Chief,
My pleasure.
Jeannie, everybody else out in the audience. Item 15. Subject, Tom Bradbury, you still there, Tom?
I am, yes.
All right, you're up.
I'm just waking up, but I'm here. Good evening, Julian, council members, city staff, and community members that are still around. You may remember last week we brought not last week, but the last council meeting, we discussed forming a city nonprofit. Between then and now, we've had discussions about what that nonprofit would need. And we also discussed at the January 9th meeting to come back and discuss with the council some of the bylaws that we are putting together for this. So I was going to go over the bylaws and also talk about a couple of the requirements we're asking the city council to approve. One of the requests that we're asking for is for a startup fund to start up the nonprofit, and we are asking the board to approve 10,000 for that purpose. We're also asking for 2 of the board positions to be nominated and approved by the council tonight. I wanted to start by going over some of the bylaws that we've come up with. I noticed that one of the items that we did not put in the staff report, which is fun, is the actual name of the nonprofit. Mayor Julian, correct me if I'm wrong, because we did have a couple of ideas, but the present name of the organization, which can change, is Guadalupe Community Action Coalition. Mayor Julian, was that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so for the council members, that's the proposed nonprofit name. The mission statement, which you'll find is written into the staff report, the mission statement is we serve the residents and businesses of Guadalupe through community support and economic development activities based on identified community needs and in partnership with the city of Guadalupe. Feel free if you have any input on these as I go through them. Regarding the board composition, the minimum board members will be 5, the maximum will be 7. We'll be starting off on this with just 5. City representative, because of the new market tax credits, which we talked about January 9th, the city cannot be in control of the nonprofit. So with 5 members, the city would be having 2 members represent the city on this board. You'll notice a few things that are included in these bylaws that are attempts to gain some control because you don't have full control over the board, but some other secondary ways to have some influence over the nonprofit. So we are going with 5 board members to start off with. The bylaws will indicate the maximum will be 7. 3 of the board of directors will also be office positions. So the officers will be 3, the total board will be 5, and those officers will be a part of the 5. We are suggesting that the president of the nonprofit be the mayor of Guadalupe, and that the treasurer of the nonprofit be the finance director of the city. The other positions will be filled by, these are possibility places where they could be filled from Guadalupe Business Association, the Guadalupe Union School District, and people on the nonprofits that serve Guadalupe. We are indicating in the bylaws that any board member that is put on the board has to get city council approval. So all 5 directors will require city council approval. The nonprofit needs a corporate office, so we're going to use the old LADG office at the senior center as the corporate office. If in the future we do get tax credits and there is a need to hire somebody, they will use that office. It also gives the city an opportunity. We have to have an office and an address for bank accounts, for legal documents, for IRS documents. So that address will be the one that will be used as the corporate office. We are suggesting, because we're saying that the city council needs to approve the directors, we are asking you tonight as part of the resolution to approve Ariston Julian as the president of the new nonprofit, and for the secretary treasurer be Janice Davis. You will notice that Janice is also, while she's also treasurer, she's also secretary, and the reason for that is we only have the 2 and we need somebody sitting in all 3 of those positions. So once the council approves the other 3 positions, one of them will be secretary.
10 more minutes.
Some miscellaneous stuff. The fiscal year will be July through June. We will have an annual meeting, which is required by law, the last week in January. and the directors will serve a 2-year term. We're asking in the resolution for the city council to also award 10,000 as a startup cost for the nonprofit. It is our indication that it is our belief that if we receive tax investment for this project, the 10,000 and other costs that the city has paid for this can be reimbursed to the city from the tax revenue. If for some reason we don't, which is a possibility, some reason we don't get investments from new market tax credits and historic tax credits, those funds would be stayed with the city as a cost to the city. And I think that covers all of the points that I wanted to make. Is there any questions?
Just,
Bless you.
bless you. Bless you. You too, Tom. We have the bullet points in terms of the representation of GBA, the school district, and nonprofit. And those members have volunteered a big part of this. Can we include this in this resolution, or we have to wait till?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we will have to wait because
Okay.
there's not been any public notice. It's not on the agenda.
Okay, cool. We do have those positions filled by, and I'm gonna mention it, we have Garrett Matsura with the GBA, Michael Jimenez with what's this group?
Sir Jobs,
Pardon?
Sir Jobs.
Sir Jobs for this, thank you.
Mhm.
And then Dr. Handel with the superintendent of school. So
Well,
that's a strong
yeah.
team.
Because every position, so because we have two, with this resolution being approved, if it is, we have two directors that would be appointed. Those
Right.
two directors would then be in charge of finding 3 more. And those 3 more would have to be approved by the council. So I'm not sure if anything else is needed to get those 3, if that makes sense. But we could come back and have these 3 items be included, but I think they're going to be included anyway in the bylaws.
But in terms of approval, it'll be,
Yes, the council has to approve these, the way I understood what you said, Mr. Mayor, is these 3 individuals have volunteered to put their names in to
Right.
be considered,
right,
because the whole council has to approve.
right,
So
Yeah.
we'll get that, but we can't do that now.
right, that's good.
Oh, I
That's-
gotcha.
So what we have before us is approval of resolution. Basically, this is part of the Royal Theater monies to
Right.
cover the shortfall that we may be seeing with
There's still funds there.
construction, so.
There's still funds.
And then with that, is that we'll move that along on the nonprofit side for other projects within the city as well, that we can access as a.
I have a small question.
Sure.
About where the location is. I know that maintenance staff is in there, using that as an office. Are we pushing them out? Are we-
No, there's plenty of room, there's plenty.
Yeah, yeah. Big office.
That's big. And then there's other spaces there we can make do, but that's a big enough office. Any questions from the council? Who's that? Who's that right there?
That's for the successor.
Oh,
Yeah, that's Joy.
Just, I have a quick
Okay,
for Dennis. Our budget is able to do the 10,000 startup.
So I haven't actually been.
Well, I mean, there's still funds in the original, RDA monies, if we had to use that. And there's possibly even with the grants, so there's funds within the RDA monies, I think probably still 300 and some thousand in there.
Is that able?
I'm not sure that's able to be used for this or not.
well,
But if there's any question of not having the funds, then we'll have to hold off till you can provide the answer.
Yeah, I'll need to look.
no, there's ample money, you talked
We
last
have
week.
reserves, we do,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
So if, if, I don't wanna say that we can pull it from like where he's saying, I just don't know.
Well, you could do it, approve this on condition of you then showing that we have the funds available. Correct?
I'm just asking if.
Contingent
if we do
upon.
this And it's agreed upon that we have money there to help do the startup, that's all.
Well, the startup is 10,000.
Yeah, well, we,
Can I say something? If we don't do this, we won't be able to get the historic tax credit or the market tax credits for the $3 million gap.
Right, so my question also is that, he stated we could, the nonprofit would refund the city back for that 10,000. But I need to know if the funds that they receive tax wise, are those restricted to that specific, or how, do you say, I don't know if we can cross funds that way.
So
I
the-
don't.
But I can probably answer that. So the historic tax credits, should they come in, there are numerous flexibilities in those funds. And historic tax credits would easily pay for this startup of the nonprofit. New markets tax credits require the startup of a nonprofit. So within their regulations, the cost of repaying that 10,000 would be eligible. Hiring somebody would be eligible. So there's no problem with reimbursements. The only thing I question, which I stated earlier, and the only thing to be considered is if we don't get any tax credits, then that would be on the city to pay permanently. The idea of the nonprofit also is for it to do more than just tax credit and the Royal Theatre. So the idea of this nonprofit is to do more than just that one project, but for it to be used for the city in more than that one way. And I would guess that other future revenue would come in from that nonprofit, and those costs could still be paid, reimbursed to the city with other grant funds.
Well, I would say that even if we couldn't get the money back directly, the benefit of using the corporation for multiple purposes aside from the tax credit funding would likely more than pay for the 10,000 in, startup costs. I'm not sure when maybe Tom can do this, I'm not sure when that $10,000 is actually gonna be necessary to pay for
My question, I'm not
Okay.
worried about if we get reimbursed the 10,000, I'm saying with our current budget, the $10,000, we can give that for the startup, is what I'm asking.
I
That
wanna
work?
say, like I said, I wanna say yes, only because we do have reserves.
Okay, that's, my only question was that we have the money to do this, and we're not gonna pull from here and there to kind of make it better. If we have the reserves and we can,
I will do my best to make sure that we go through thoroughly and, before we touch the reserves, but we do have it,
Okay.
if we have to absolutely go.
that's
through
my only
reserves,
question, that we have the money to do this, to start.
Yeah,
That's,
if I could
this
just,
is all our budget's been through the
Right.
years, and we're starting to get going in the right direction that we,
I'll just say we don't have a place to pay the money to yet. We haven't formed the corporation. As the papers haven't been filed, there's gonna be some time. Tom, you might be able to estimate that better. We haven't met with the attorney that we hired last week to do all this. So there's nowhere to pay the money to right away. So we'll have an answer for that question for sure. And if the answer is no, that we don't have the money, you can take back the action that you vote on tonight if necessary. It's like shooting ourselves in the foot, if not the foot, the head. First of all, 10,000 is just we're covering all the administrative fees that are required for nonprofit organizations.
That's already covered in the fees for the attorney. So this is startup costs for the corporation itself.
Right,
And they're not gonna be required, as what I'm just trying to say is these fees aren't gonna be required immediately. There's gonna be a delay before
right.
they're gonna need to be spent. So we can make sure to answer any questions, and we can do a better job with the answer about where they're coming from in the city funds. And I'm not saying they can't come from the redevelopment monies. I just don't know the answer sitting there. So we'll have more information as we move along. But the question is, does the council want to fund 10,000 at some point to get this corporation some seed money? And I think that's the way to look at it, because the finance director is not gonna write a check to this corporation that doesn't exist tomorrow, so.
And you see what we're asking for is the approval to move forward.
Correct.
So,
Just for clarity, I would suggest that the formation of the nonprofit will be done quicker than you think.
right. And it's needed. So.
Much needed.
Well, it's gonna be at least till the next council meeting, right, Tom?
Oh,
Yeah, I think it'll be close to being finished by then.
It won't be finished though, because we'll still have to nominate 2 more officers, and there still won't be a place to.
Actually, no, we can form the nonprofit with the 2 positions that are here. We can do that.
And then at next council meeting, we just vote, we all put in, or we'll just vote for those names, or how it happens. How will that look, play out?
This is, as Tom said, there is some haste to do this for a lot of different reasons, but we don't want to skip any steps. And the council does need to have a chance to look at the full documents. So we'll hopefully have those available at the next meeting, or certainly by the second meeting in February, where essentially the corporation will be fulfilled, the documents will be fleshed out. You'll be able to approve them, make any changes if necessary to certain things. Obviously, the articles of incorporation will not be changed because they're pretty standard, but things like the bylaws can be modified if necessary. And that can be done at the corporation level after the form. So we'll make sure that you have as much information as you can before you have to.
Awesome, because there's no bylaws in this document.
Exactly.
Correct, okay, I was looking for it and I could not find it. Okay.
In which document?
No.
Yeah, here's.
Yeah, the purpose today of going over these verbally is to say these are what we're proposing, and so tomorrow they'll go to the attorney to be put into a draft bylaws.
Correct.
And by the next meeting, we should have those draft bylaws completed.
Very good. All right, back to the council, what's the wish of the council on resolution 2411?
A motion to 2024-11.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion, resolution? Okay, so before us, roll call please.
Councilmember Costa Junior,
Aye.
Councilmember Robles,
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez, Councilmember Lozelle, absent, Mayor Julian.
Resolution passes. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. You go back to sleep.
Welcome.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see,
It was sent as a separate,
separate, okay.
yeah. But you could finish up the.
Yeah, we actually have to, I'm sorry.
Oh,
The way it was, the issue of the oversight board issue, the successor agency came up after the agenda was posted. So
Okay.
we're doing a special meeting immediately after this meeting, so you need to finish this meeting and then we'll reconvene.
All right, future agenda items. We're gonna bring that approval up as quickly as we can. So, the
Oh, put that on there
For half an hour.
for,
Yes,
for,
immediately after.
27th or,
Oh, I see.
what would we call it? Bylaws?
Nomination of
The
the,
nomination, approval of the.
and yeah, approval of bylaws and.
Okay, any future agenda items other than that? We'll go to item 17, announcements, community activity reports. Christina, you've been busy.
This weekend I attended the Women's March. I heard from a lot of youth. They say that they want to have resources, they want to advocate, and so it just gave me a fresh breath of air, just hearing from them. So there was a Women's March this Saturday. And I think that's my only report.
Did you go to mariachi thing or?
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, my children got sick that night.
Oh, no.
We had I had an SBCAG meeting last Thursday in Santa Barbara. And after that, had AP area pollution control district meeting after that. All of that finished, we started at 10 and finished at 4, so.
Can I say something to that?
But sure.
Tree trunk of material, right?
Oh, man.
It was this thing.
Yeah, there was a lot of dead trees in my findings. You know, it was interesting because, I put a tie on and slicked up and Mayor Santa Barbara comes in a t-shirt and, tennis shoes. So.
Who's your, companion?
Oh, yeah, Alice Patino, we talked politics, although we couldn't figure out how to turn the radio on, she wanted to watch a certain channel and we couldn't figure out how to, which was good. Anyway, what else was happening? There's another, we met with, SBCAG, directors, yesterday. And talked about all the programs that are coming before us, and I know at one point, there's been $1 billion in Santa Barbara County road construction with Measure A. So, and next week, you're gonna hear, details about that, about everything that's gonna involve Guadalupe. Any other announcements or any?
But none of it is being used on the roads around us.
Pretty soon.
There will be.
Pretty soon.
You will be, you'll be complaining about it because, there's gonna be.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, oh, yeah.
I did also attend the fire appreciation night and just want to mention that Chief Cash gave a great remarks in regards to our fire department. Some of those statistics that he named, I wasn't aware of, and so it was great to hear from Chief Cash on that.
Yeah, could I add to that? The guy has a gift of, I don't know what it is, public speaking. Gift of gab.
I just asked the question, what time is the Women's March on Saturday? It was 11 of.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Was, yeah.
After parade.
Yeah. All right, is there a motion to adjourn this, and then we're gonna adjourn to the special meeting of successor agency?
How much is there?
Oh,
Your second?
One second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye. There.
Thank you.
This meeting needs to be on Zoom.
yes. Yes. It'll go quick.
Gonna give you a call.
Hello.
Taking a break, so. Joy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna take a break and we're gonna end this meeting and I'm gonna send you another link
Oh,
for the new meeting.
I need a double.
Okay, via email?
Yeah.
But it's.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay.